Welcome back, everybody. Today, I will speak with Erika Spies, the president and founder of the Brooklyn Miller Foundation. You can find them at bmillerfoundation.org or the Brooklyn Miller Foundation on Facebook. I urge you to take a moment and check out their website as well as their Facebook. Donate, give them a like, give them a follow, do everything you can to help spread awareness and help this organization grow. Today will be part 1 of 2 because we were able to get into so much depth that it's going to take a little bit longer to explain everything, and I want to make sure that we get you back next week to hear part 2. Welcome back to the Childhood Cancer Perspective, and thank you all so much for sticking with me through all of these episodes as I continue to detail the journey of our daughter JC, who was diagnosed with a rare form of brain cancer in January of 2020. Since her passing in 2021, I have done everything in my power to advocate for these children, and the one thing that social media has provided, or a silver lining, is the opportunity to meet incredible people that are doing their own things in honor of their children or with their children, and so social media has been a positive in that manner. My next guest is someone that I met through an organization that passed on their information and was able to make that connection, which was amazing. So I want to introduce Erika from the Brooklyn Miller Foundation. The floor is yours.
Hey, Curtis. Thank you so much for inviting me. I love getting to share Brooklyn's story. She was 12 years old. She'd started having what we all thought was growing pains. And after probably about a month of them hurting and, taking her to the doctor, and the doctor really just saying it was growing pains too, we noticed some bruising on her arms. Long story short, we had 5 different doctors, including 3 oncologists, tell us that it did not look like cancer, that it was something called ITP, which is really just low blood platelets. But her pain continued to get worse. So I finally pushed for imaging, found out she had stage 4 osteosarcoma. That was in July of 2023. She passed on October 27th after only 3 months of us knowing that she had cancer. Before she passed away, she made me promise that I would start a foundation in her name to help other kids with cancer. She gave me quite a to-do list, and so I have been working on that as much as possible since the day since before she passed. She wanted to be as much of a part of it as she could. I guess starting in the beginning of October, we really started working on that together. And it has been a very sad, very emotional, but very also therapeutic and healing in its own way to be able to help other children and families that before I started this journey a year ago, I knew were around, but I didn't have the same connection with, and I didn't quite realize the severity of what these children actually go through.
Yeah, you're absolutely. And I think that what you said is so, it encompasses so many of what these children are as people. They want to help others so much more than they even worry about their own health at that point. Being young as 12 or, our daughter at 8 years old, it's like they just want they want to help other people. They want to make sure you're okay. They want to make sure that you're going to be okay. And they know so much more. And I feel like they know what's, unfortunately for so many, they know what's coming, and they just want to make sure that you're going to be okay moving forward. It is definitely an incredibly emotional roller coaster that we don't wish upon anybody. But, starting these foundations or organizations is about awareness, and it's about community, and it's about just getting people to kind of see a different side of the world that they often shut out because it's easy to turn around and walk away and not see what's happening on the high floors of a hospital that you never get to visit.
Yeah, it's too painful to think about beforehand, and then once you get there, I wish I would have paid more attention, not necessarily for me, but because of all the things that those children are going through. They need somebody to pay attention to them.
Yeah, and I think we all as a society are guilty of kind of growing up maybe with blinders on and not really understanding what happens that's not in your inner circle. And I mention often that, you go to the hospital as a kid for stitches or a broken ankle or whatever, and you don't think about anything above that emergency room. You don't think about anything that's happening higher above you until, like I reference our story, until we're on the 7th floor, the neurology floor, with watching our daughter and then watching all these other children in all these other fishbowl rooms fighting for their lives. And you look out the window and think, does anybody on that highway understand what they're driving past right now? Do they know what's happening 100 feet away from them? And I think that the world does not, and it's easy to ignore it.
It is very easy. And it's very sad that it is so easy.
Yep. It is. So tell us more about what the foundation does. What exactly do you do?
So she gave me quite a to-do list, and so I had to, start small. So the thing that was most important to Brooklyn was, or not necessarily most important, but that she really wanted to push first is she loved getting gifts and she loved giving gifts. And so she wanted to be able to give gifts to other kids that were fighting cancer. So what we started, the Brooklyn Miller Foundation, right now we've got 3 different components of it. The first thing, our main focus right now is the Brooklyn's Bags program. And that is, I send out an application to the families. They send it back and it has them list all of their child's favorites, like favorite foods, favorite colors, favorite animals, favorite cartoon characters, just anything to get me a little bit more information about what they might like. And then I also leave a line for special requests if they have something that they really would like, that maybe they can't afford, or, just sometimes gets overlooked whenever people are getting gifts, to make sure that I can get them something, that they want and will use. And because those personalized gifts really, meant a lot, especially to Brooklyn, whenever she loved Stitch. And so almost everything that she got, I'm actually sitting in her bedroom right now. Just, it's quiet. And I figured this was a good spot. And so she has Stitch stuff everywhere. There's a Stitch backpack. There's like 5 Stitch blankets. I don't even know how many Stitch stuffed animals. And so every time she'd get one of those bags, it didn't matter how much she was hurting, how bad she felt. Whenever she got a gift and she would open it, it would take away that pain for sometimes a minute, sometimes 5, but she would forget about it for just a little while and enjoy that moment. And she wanted to be able to give those moments to other kids as well. And now we came up with the name Brooklyn's Bags. It's Brooklyn and Gabe. Gabe was another little boy with osteosarcoma we connected with through social media. I connected with his mom. He and Brooklyn both were wanting to find other kids that they could talk to that understood what they were going through. He passed away 2 weeks before Brooklyn. And so they had a connection. His mom and I had a connection, and she wanted to include him in her journey, in her story. So Brooklyn's Bag stands for Brooklyn and Gabe. Her goal was to be able to give gifts to other kids, help them take away, even for a minute, because you've been through it. You know that those minutes where they're not in pain and not crying and not scared, even just that minute makes a world of difference. And so that is our main focus. Right now, I am working with Dell Children's in Austin, as well as the Dell Children's at Home Hospice team. Those are where we're mainly focusing on getting our applications. I have had other people reach out to me through social media, and I'm not going to tell somebody no. You don't live in my area, so no, I'm not going to care about your child. And so we have had the opportunity to work with a couple of families that are in different states already. The other 2 programs I'm working more with the hospice team on. The first one is a couples care kit, and that is if a family has a child on hospice care, those relationships are hard to focus on. You're more focused on your child and everything that they're going through, and keeping a relationship during that time is not an easy thing to do. Now, I only had to go through it for 3 months. I can't imagine the stresses that families who have to go through it for even longer, because it is no way an easy thing to do. And so it's really just a date night in a box, gift card, like an Uber Eats gift card or something, so that way they can get dinner for the family brought in, games, candles, some of the little conversation starter questions. just anything that a craft to do together, just to give them a little bit of a connection again, because they will be going through something even harder in the not too distant future. And so keeping those relationships to me is a very important thing. The last program that we are working on right now is Forever in Our Hearts, and that is on the 1 year anniversary of a child's passing. We will be sending a customized gift to the family just to remind them that even though the world continues on and it seems like everybody else's life returns to normal, that their child isn't forgotten, that their child was important to somebody else, and that their memory is important enough for somebody else to remember other than mom and dad, and maybe a few family members and friends. So those are the three big things that we're working on right now. I'm hoping I can get this to grow so I can help in so many other ways. But it really has been, yes, it is very hard hearing about all these children, but it also helps to know that I am able to help in a way that before going through this with Brooklyn, I never even thought about. That I'm able to step up in a way that a lot of people probably don't even think about because they haven't experienced it.
Yep. No, I think you're doing an amazing thing. And I think I talked about it in the past that there's kind of two different ways that people can go when you lose a child, when you're going through this and you lose a child. In this community, there's two different ways. One is that you can kind of move forward in a way where you want to give back, or the other one, what I see a lot of is that people that kind of fade into the background and not forget that it happened, but you don't want to be part of it anymore. And neither one is wrong.
No.
Okay. Neither one is it is completely understandable. And grief has its own avenues, no matter what. And no one's going to tell you right or wrong. You'll be told whether you're doing right or wrong by everybody on the outside, that you're not doing it right.
Yep.
And that there are, in fact, ways that you are supposed to grieve. There's a time limit on it, I've heard. I don't know what that time limit is. There's kind of two different ways that people can go. One is to kind of move into a realm of awareness, or a realm of trying to get people to kind of hear your story and share your story. And the other one is to kind of melt into the background and not act like it didn't happen, but you just don't want to be a part of that world anymore, which is fine. 100%. Everybody goes through this in a different way. We have friends of ours and people that we have met that are on absolute both sides of that. And we treat everybody the same. It's like, this is a mission that we chose to do, or this is our path forward. And others, they're very low involvement, and that's okay. So what I really liked, I like all of it, but I really wanted to kind of touch on is something that I don't think a lot of people understand is, as parents going through this, whether you're a couple or whether you're a single parent going through it, you do not take care of yourself when your child is sick. You absolutely let yourself go, and because that's not your concern, that's not your focus, and that's right, that's okay. But at the same time, if you're not okay, they can't be okay, because you can't be there for them. And so that's a big part of it. The other huge part of it is that the pediatric cancer world has a statistic that nobody talks about, and that's 80-20. 80% of couples will break up over a diagnosis like this, or their child going through it and being sick. And that's not because they don't love each other. It's not because anything like that. It's because the stress that it puts on a relationship, the stress that it puts on a human, is unfathomable. You can't understand what it puts you through. And like I said, by letting yourself get so stressed out and strung out and tired and worn out and burning the candle at both ends, and at times it comes to a head, and it can break couples apart. So having something like this, it says, hey, take a minute, take an hour. It's okay to go out and take a walk. We had to essentially be forced out of our house by a friend of ours saying, get out of the house. We went to Menards. We went to a hardware store and looked around for an hour. That's what we did. That was our get out of jail free card. That was, her coming over and watching JC while we did that. But too many people, I think, don't look at the fact that it's okay to take a break and walk away. You're not neglecting, but you have to take care of yourself.
Think about wanting to go do something to make yourself feel better. Um, but I do know that the times that I made myself get out for, like you said, you went to Menards. I drove around for an hour. I left the hospital and I drove around. They made me take a break, and I was like, I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to do anything, but I'll drive around. Just because you really do, even if it is, whether it's to cry, to think about things, just to decompress in a different environment, it really is important to take that little bit of time for yourself. Because I went in with a much clearer head, and I was able to help care for her better that night than I probably would have been able to otherwise.
Yeah, it makes an hour makes a huge amount of difference. And I think people there's so many things as humans, as adults, that we take for granted on a day-to-day basis, that going through a situation like this, going through a battle like this with your child, you realize, wow, none of this is important, but I need to understand, like, people need to understand that what we gripe about every single day, what we get angry about, whether it's traffic or the weather or politics, stupid things, it's all irrelevant to what's really important. And our kids are the most important thing on this planet. They are our most valuable asset. And we have to understand that. But we can't be there for them 100% if we're not 100%. Now, and it's all relative to, we will never be whole again. We will never be 100%, but you have to be at your best in order to be able to be there for them and to be there for the rest of your family. If you have other children, things like that, you have to, I feel, going through this with JC, I feel like through our entire journey, I was away a lot with her in the hospital while my wife stayed home with my other two. I missed a lot. I missed, sports games and concerts and all this stuff. And I always felt like, I'm neglecting you, but I have to be there for her. And they understood. And I know they understood, but it's always broken my heart that I missed so much and couldn't be there for them. But what do you do as a parent when your child is hurting and you're supposed to be that protector? That's your one job. And it takes a lot. It takes a lot out of you. It takes a toll on a person's mental state. And, mental health is a serious problem in this community alone. PTSD is a real thing that I think people only associate with the military. I don't think they associate it with watching your child go through this. Scanxiety is a real thing.
Oh, yeah.
That if it's you have a 3-month scan, you're good at 1 month, 2 months, you're starting to get shaky, and at that third month, you're breaking down in the corner, hoping to God that it's going to be good. And I don't think people associate enough with what we go through on a daily basis, because again, we come back to, we don't exist if you can turn around and walk away. Then you don't have to hear the bad stuff, the scary stuff.
Exactly. I used to be like that. It was just way too hard to think about. And now I'm like, I feel horrible because it really is. I mean, we can pretend it doesn't happen, but it doesn't change the fact that it does. And I will never, and for me, like you said, everybody grieves differently. I will never be able to turn my back on it again. Just because I've seen it, and I know that even if it is giving a mom a hug because she just found out her daughter is about to die whenever they thought she was doing better. There's so many different ways that we could be there for each other. Spreading awareness in any way that we know how. I will never be able to walk away again. And I used to, because I'd sit there and I would think, just thinking about the possibility of something happening to one of my children, whether it was cancer, a car accident, whatever, like you start thinking about it and it's too painful, so you stop. And so it really is easier to pretend that all this stuff isn't going on. I wish I would have paid more attention, not just for me, but for all those other kids and families that have suffered well before we did. And, I don't know if I could have made a difference in any way, but I sure wish I would have been able to try.
Yeah. But on that same level, the difference that you are making and that you will make, I think, is going to be it's going to be so impactful. And I think I think we can agree, we don't do this for the recognition. We don't do this for the accolades. We do this because it's the right thing to do, and because this is a community that nobody wants to be a part of. But we will always, I always say we'll go scorched earth for any family we ever meet in this community, period. These children are, again, our most valuable asset. There's a reason that the ribbon is gold. There's an entire meaning behind it, that it is the most precious metal on this earth, and we're losing too many children every single day. And it is easy for people to turn around, and that, in the political world, when you're trying to get people to come on board with measures to help with funding or research awareness for pediatric cancer, you get a lot of no's. You get a lot of, I can't support this without supporting that. And I don't want to, but it has come to the point where if you go into a politician's office and they've got children's pictures on their desk, pick that picture up and say, at any point, it could be this child. Not because we wish that on you, not because we want you to ever hear those words, but because understand that, like us, we were not cancer parents until the day we were. I know it sounds weird to say it, but we weren't. The day before, I was not expecting to hear those words.
Yeah.
I was expecting to hear, okay, there's some inflammation, or we were told for months that our daughter had a gastrointestinal problem, not brain cancer. Months and months of being put on laxatives, being told it's an issue, just, this is what's going on. The child should not have been able to walk straight. She was on so many laxatives and it wasn't doing anything. And we take it as a sign, whether you're a religious person or not, we take it as a sign from God that her eye turned in one day, that gave us a chance to get into a doctor, to show a mass, that sent us to the hospital in the middle of the night on our oldest daughter's birthday to get a CT scan saying there's a mass in her brain. We're going to admit you. And it happened like a whirlwind, like to the point where I didn't break down or cry until maybe 5 or 6 hours later, because it happened so fast and I didn't know what to think. You're in shock.
Mm-hmm.
And these stories are too prevalent now in the pediatric cancer world, that we're pushed aside by doctors, or we're kind of cast off. They're not looking for that the unicorn. They're just looking for the most obvious thing.
Right.
It can only be this. It can only be this. It can only be this. Well, we have to start looking and understanding that there's a real problem here, and as we as parents need to be listened to, because much like another person told me 2 days ago, that I can't claim to know as much as a doctor because I didn't go to school for 12 years. Well, come and be a part of this world, and let me tell you how much you're going to learn and understand. And we may be even able to talk some doctors under the table because we've done so much research on one specific thing. But we know our children, we know their baselines, we know what's normal, what's not normal. If we're coming to you, dozens of times within a short period of time, then don't treat them like they treated my wife in a room where she thought she was going to have children's service come and ask her, because she'd been so many places trying to get answers. She was truly worried that was going to happen.
Wow.
That's not okay. Like, if we feel like there's an issue, then there's an issue.
That has been one of the things that I push on pretty much all of my videos. We had an article in the newspaper and then one of the local magazines. And one of the things that I push is, if you don't feel like something is right in your child's body, you make sure you get it checked out. It doesn't matter if the doctor says, well, it might just be growing pains, or like y'all were, stomach issues. If you don't think something's right, you don't stop pushing, because they don't know your child like you do. And that is the one thing that I
exactly
try
right.
to share.
They're the amount of being told that, well, it's it can only be this. Then it's just not the case.
So it showed mine disconnected for a little bit. Are we all back on?
I mean, I can see you and hear you.
Okay, good.
Okay.
I saw you the whole time, and it just showed it was disconnected. So I just wanted to make sure.
We're just having all kinds of issues with this
We
today.
are.
We're gonna figure it. We're gonna get it figured out.
Well, you know what? Maybe it'll just be me, and so you won't ever have this issue again. I live out in the middle of nowhere.
Oh,
So
see. Okay. All right. That all explains it now. It explains it now. Yeah, I think having people understand that knowing your children is so much more important sometimes than what your last name says on your door. What your degree is. We know what our kids are going through, and what I've said before, and I think this needs to be understood, is that the reason that we sometimes, or all, all the times, can claim that we know more than that doctor that walks in the room is because we don't get to clock out at night and go home. We don't get to walk away. We live this 24 hours a day. And even in the event that our child passes, we're still living this every single day, and we're still learning. We don't get the credit we deserve, not that we want it, for understanding, but our kids understand and can, at 6, 7, 8 years, 12 years old, can name off every drug they're on. They can, that's not what kids should be understanding and learning. And that's unfortunate. That's what's in their brain right now. And what should be is going outside and playing and making friends and doing dumb things like we all did as kids.
Exactly. Enjoying their school summer breaks and looking forward to hanging out with their friends, not counting down the days that they get at home between chemo visits.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't understand why it's not easier to understand, I guess. It's kind of a weird way to put it, but that's where we are. But I think we are in a position now, again, with meeting so many different people, for us anyway, and this community coming together, and it's getting bigger, which is not a good thing, but it's also not a bad thing. Not good, because that means more children are going through this, but not bad because more families are coming together, which means we're only going to get louder.
Right.
In the amount of times that I've been told that I'm not loud enough as myself, well, we're only getting louder now. So at some point, you're going to have to listen to what we're saying.
Oh yeah, I know. I'm doing my best to be as loud as possible, but I'm still learning, still figuring out the best way to go about it. But I am every opportunity I get, I share with everybody, people, strangers. I've been on social media, which is a hard thing for me because I am a very private person. I'm not a very outgoing person. So it takes a lot for me to get on and make my TikTok videos or share something on Facebook. But I know that is the only way to raise awareness and to get other people support other than people that are already going through this. So I will make myself as uncomfortable as need be to help spread it as best as I can.
No, I think it's perfect. And, much like you've seen, personally, my business partner and I, Tim, we have made ourselves physically uncomfortable a lot of times. But it's all for these kids. It's all for awareness. It's all for getting people to come in and laugh and have a good time and really kind of take your mind off what's going on, but at the same time sharing what our message is. And it's been generally successful in allowing us to make a lot of connections, allowing us to raise a hell of a lot of money for research, which is incredible. And it's giving us that opportunity to really get out there in a world that, 10 years ago, you wouldn't have had it. You're not going to get this far on MySpace, but when it comes to now, there's social media everywhere, and we're on every platform just trying to get people to listen, and it works. And it is the way that I've connected with a lot of people. It's the way that I've connected with politicians or doctors, and finding stories. And it's an incredible wealth of information out there if you're willing to just take a minute and look, and then turn off all the bullshit that is going on in this world that is absolutely irrelevant to our everyday life, but seems to be the focus of everything that we see.
Oh, yeah.
And what would you say the goal is in the future, say in the next 5 years, for what you're doing?
Within the next 5 years, I would like to be able to kind of do like y'all are doing and have a set amount each year that we're working towards to donate to childhood cancer research. That is one of my next goals, is to get on that. But then I would also like to be able to do like financial assistance for families, other than just sending gifts. If, they have a specific need, or if a child wants to go on a trip, I guess kind of like Make-A-Wish. I don't know, it'll be a while before we get big enough to do to that extent. But, if they've got something in the area they want to do, maybe help with that type of thing. So those are my next couple of goals. Really long term, I'd like to help, one of the hospitals. There's another children's hospital here that just got built that doesn't have an oncology wing. I'd like to be able to donate towards that to get that going, because it's Texas Children's. The Texas Children's in Houston is awesome. And so I think that it would be a great benefit to have something here local as well. So I'd love to be able to help build that. Some more great doctors in here. But those are my goals. And of course, Brooklyn passed from osteosarcoma. So I have recently partnered with Osteosarcoma Institute. And so I would love to be able to do more with them as far as financial support to help them try to get this monster beat